Yeah, thanks for allowing me an opportunity tonight to be here. My name's Todd. Originally grew up in the great state of New York. Moved out of college to Houston, Texas to become a teacher and a coach. Total fish out of water when it came from moving from New York to Houston. Fell in love with the people, fell in love with the culture, the climate. Married my wife, moved to San Antonio, Texas, became a head coach of middle school for athletics. And then from there became an assistant principal. From there became a middle school principal. From there became a high school principal, in which I currently just retired after 29 years in public education. Stepped away, and now I am a director of school leadership here in San Antonio, which I am able to coach principals, work with teachers, and basically serve all of God's children. Happily married, 5 children, live in the great city of San Antonio, Texas. I did say that potentially those Spurs could win the NBA championship this year. Wimby is not just a one-man show. They are loaded when it comes to the young talent that they have around them. But I'm extremely passionate about education. I'm extremely passionate about supporting and uplifting. And that's part of the reason why I reached out to you about your podcast is the platform and the voice that you amplify for so many educators around the country. So I'm excited to be here tonight and talk with you.
Thank you so much. Why did you want to be an educator? What drove you to be enter the field of education?
My mom and dad were both teachers. And so, like I tell people all the time, I entered the family business. My father was in New York. My father was a coach. My mother was an elementary school teacher. I was an average student. I was a good student, not a great student, an average student. Really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just kind of backed into or defaulted into education as my major in college. Like most young boys, I matured in college and found my groove, found my passion. Never thought I would live in Houston, Texas. Never thought I would have left the great state of New York. I always thought I would have been a New Yorker, but New York was in a hiring freeze. Applied for jobs all over the country. And like every great young 22-year-old at the time, I applied for jobs in cities that had 3 major sports. So I applied in New York, I applied in Miami, I applied in Houston, I applied in Dallas, Chicago, I applied in LA. And I ended up in Houston, Texas, on sight unseen. This was 1996, before the internet, before I could do research. Guy called me on the phone, said, "Do you want a job?" I said, "Yes." I went upstairs. I told my parents I got a job. They were so proud of me. They said, "Where?" I said, "Houston, Texas." My mom nearly fainted. My dad probably nearly hit me, to think like, "What are you doing?" Loaded up my car, drove down, and really the rest is history. And so I tell people I joined the family business is kind of why I got into education.
Where did you get that boldness to just get up and leave?
Yeah.
1996,
Yeah.
you just got up and left.
Yeah,
That's bold.
that. Thank you for that, because I do feel like that was always who I was. I was, you know what, and I take it to this: I was never the fastest, the strongest. I was never the smartest. So I always wanted to prove myself to people. So proving yourself to people sometimes requires risk taking a little bit more than what you would want and out of the comfort zone. And John, honestly, I looked at it like from the standpoint: I'd go for 1 year and I'd come back. Like anybody could do 1 year away from mom and dad. I'd just spent 4 years in college in a different state, went to school in Pennsylvania. So I thought I could do that. But then when I got down there, I fell in love with the kids. I fell in love with coaching. I fell in love with the people that were there. And I felt like I was making a difference. So I said, I'll go back for year two. I went home for the summer. Life was good. Went back for year two. Year two, I met my wife. And then you know what? Hey, let's roll. Let's move to San Antonio. Moved to San Antonio. Took a risk. Like, let's go get back and get my master's to become an assistant principal. Took a risk. And John, I will tell you this: at the very end of the career, so fast forward 29 years, I was a high school principal here in San Antonio, about 2,400 students. I retired at the height of what I think was my best year. So you talk about being
Uh,
bold. I stepped away in a day and age in which I hired all my assistant principals, all my counselors but one, my head football coach, my band director. I hired all the key spots, and I stepped away for a new risk, a new challenge. I was bold, as you had kind of said that, because I never felt I'd be able to duplicate what I had done. So I'm always, in my mind, trying to find that next adventure and really that next hurdle, because deep down, I want to prove that I can do anything that I put my mind to. And I think with that leadership style, people appreciate that. People get behind that, because I am one of the first people to say, "Hey, does somebody want to pilot something?" My hand goes up. Does somebody want to try something that could work? My hand goes up. Hey, take a risk on this person. They're not the traditional teacher. I'm taking a risk on that person because I see potential, and people took risks and challenges on me. So thank you for noticing that because I did take a risk. And jump 1,800 miles. I loaded up in the back of a 1996 Geo Prism everything I needed. A TV, like not as many sneakers as you got in the wall behind you,
Yeah.
but everything that I got, I thought, you know what, I need rollerblades. I never rollerblade. So I loaded up everything that I thought that I needed, came down here and really figured out who I was. I came down at 22 and I came back that summer probably at 42, if you know what I mean. Like I had grown up 20 years to where I was like, okay, this is my goal. This is my mission. I'm going to take care of business and be able to go from there.
That's such an unusual thing to be able to take a risk like that. You don't really hear that, especially nowadays.
Mhm.
How important is it for young teachers to take risks like the way that you just explained, or young administrators who just started up? How important is it to take risks like that?
Yeah, I'll say, you got to bet on yourself. Like, if you don't bet on yourself, who the heck is going to bet on you? If you're not willing to stick your neck out there. And I think it comes from the standpoint of coaching. Like I said, my father was a coach. I grew up playing sports, was never the best, but I grew up in that environment where somebody needed to take charge. It's the seventh inning. What are you going to do? It's the fourth quarter. What are you going to do? Who is going to be that person to step up? And I always found that that was my role to be able to go. So I would encourage anybody out there that right now is saying, I want to become an assistant principal, but I can't break into it in my district. I would encourage them, then branch out. Like branch out. You're in LA. Hit you up and say, hey, can you put me in contact with people? I'm in San Antonio. Reach out and branch out to people like we have done tonight to be able to connect, to say, like, hey, can you put me in contact with someone? Because I have this burning desire. I have this belief that I can do the job. And for whatever reason, I'm not getting an opportunity in my current district. So bet on yourself. And at the end of the day, if the risk doesn't work out, I could have came home a year, 9 months after I started there. No harm, no foul. Would have taught myself a lot about it. So I would say, as an administrator, bet on yourself. Apply for that job. Like honestly, if you don't apply, you can't get it. And so people are like, well, I didn't, well, you didn't apply. If you don't apply, you're not going to get the job. For teachers, risk taking as far as going out there like I did, I would 100%. For risk taking on a campus, I would say make sure that you are in line with what's going on the campus and make sure that the risk taking isn't just something that you are stepping out on a limb where you could be left out there. My risk taking was different. I was the principal, I was the assistant principal, I was in charge. I could be that first person to pilot it. If you want to, like for example, if you came to me as a teacher and you said, I have this idea, I'm going to own it, I'm going to jump with it, I'm going to run with it, I got it, then I'm going to support you. But as a new teacher, you need to make sure that your principal is in line with you before you take a risk that way. That would be what I would say there. But if you want to bet on yourself, go for it. And you know what? I'm cheering for you from San Antonio, Texas, because people bet on me that I could do it. Somebody his name was Raleigh Ford. Raleigh Ford took a chance on me in 1996 for me to be here today. And if I could find the guy, if he's listening to your podcast now, God bless the man, because he bet on me. And it was before Zoom and it was a phone call over. And the first time I met him, I walked into the school and I said, Mr. Ford? And he goes, Bloomer? And I said, yes. So he bet on me. So I would tell anybody that's out there, if you feel confident, if you got the skill set, do it. Go for it.
Where did you develop that mindset? How instrumental were your parents in developing that type of mindset?
You know what? It's great. My parents now live, if you've seen the show, Everybody Loves Raymond, my parents live, 200 yards from me. They've moved here to San Antonio, Texas. We've since kind of left. We still have the house by my parents. I live downtown now, just in that retirement phase of, being a hipster downtown. And so my parents were everything. My father was my role model. My mother was the rock of our family. They still are. They have showed me how to be a good father, how to be a good person, how to be a good Catholic. I mean, they raised my children while I worked. And so honestly, I'm very blessed with having parents. Now, my father grew up in New York City and he went to college in Kentucky to play football. So my father was kind of that first trailblazer to step away. Now he came back home because New York City boy going into rural Kentucky, he played at like Eastern Kentucky. He came back. That was not New York City. So he ended up coming back, but he left New York City and he traveled around the great state of New York till he found a job to be able to go from there. So I'm very, very proud of my parents. I'm still very proud of my parents and I'm still trying to, not live up to their expectations, but still at 51 years old, trying to make sure my parents are still proud of me for how I carry myself each and every day, how I interact, how I raise my children, how I still go to church, how I take care of my mom, how I make sure I take time out of my day to make sure I'm with my parents because I'm blessed to have them still in my life. So my parents were everything for me and they still are.
Well, that's amazing, and I could totally, when you talk about taking risks, it's the same thing with me, you know, everything was about taking a risk, back in, 1996, I ended up, getting married in 1996. I got married in 1996, I had kids in 1996. That was a risk. I was like,
Mhm.
"Screw it, let's do it. Let's
Uh,
just do it. Let's take the risk."
mhm,
Um the idea that you talked about somebody took a risk on you and hired you as same thing with me. I had no credential, went to a Catholic school. They hired me as a Catholic school first grade teacher, and Randy Campos took a risk on me and said, "You know what? I vouch for this guy. This guy looks like he knows what he's talking about. I think he's gonna be good for the school." And just me applying into a position where I didn't have the credentials to even have that position, but they're like, "I like this guy. I'm gonna take it."
mhm,
And so a lot of it's just bet like you said, betting on yourself, rolling the dice, believing in yourself, and just going for it. And I feel like that's something that our young educators need to understand. Bet on yourself.
mhm. And as we're talking about that, like I looked for that person to hire on my campus as a principal. I looked for that confident young teacher that bet on themselves to come up and introduce themselves to me at a conference, email me, call me, find someone that knew me to vouch to get in touch with me. Like I like that. That shows initiative. That shows that you are willing to go for something that you want. If you're willing to go for something that you want and you get it, that person's going to work even harder. So if you're out there as a teacher or you're graduating in May and you're thinking, I want to work at this school, man, go for it. Apply for it. Find someone that's there. Reach out. Go meet the principal. Go knock on the door. No lie. I had somebody come to my school when I was a middle school principal, and it was her husband who came to the school and said, look, my wife is a teacher. She wants to come to your school. She will not come to you. Like she follows you on social media. She likes what you're doing. I am coming to say, I need my wife to work at your school. And I love that. Like I love, and you know what? I said, hey, have her call me. What's her certification in? I looked her up online. I reached out to the dad. About 2 weeks later, I hired her because that husband bet on his wife to go advocate for her. She was probably ticked. Can you imagine if you had done that for your wife or I'd done that for my wife? And she was like, you did what? But she was
Yeah.
one of my best hires. And I might not have considered her, known her, if someone didn't take a risk. So as we're talking about that, go for it. Like, and all that could have happened was I had a story to tell that somebody's husband showed up. And then that woman would have said, you know what, my husband does love me because he went out of his way. He took time off of work. He went to this school. He told that principal that I wanted to work here. Like, that is a great story. And she
Yeah.
is a fabulous employee that does so many great things for kids. And I took a risk on her because her husband was like, you need to have her on the campus. Let's go. Like, we need more of that, don't we? We need more of that.
We absolutely
Yes.
do need more of that. You said you're retired. You said you
Yes.
retired after 30 years. What lessons have you learned, and what things would you have done differently?
You know what? As
Yeah,
as as an administrator, um, you know, first of all, just hats off and shout out to anybody doing the job in education, just in general. Whether it's the pre-K assistant all the way to the superintendent, everybody in between, the custodians and everybody. It's a very difficult time to be in education today. It's very difficult. The
absolutely.
arrows are coming from all directions, whether it be state government, local government, federal government, parent groups, Facebook groups, anonymous complaints, swatting calls, vaping, you name it, state accountability, vouchers, no vouchers, Democrats, Republicans. It is extremely difficult to
Mhm.
do that. And sadly, you see colleges that are closing their schools of education, and you see people leaving the profession to find other careers, and that is so disheartening. And so, if you are a first year administrator, and let's start there because I'm coaching a couple principals right now that are in their first year or second year, and they are on that edge of the couch moment, as Jimmy Casas talks about. They are there. They're questioning whether they're the right person for the job.
Mhm.
And I wish I could say it gets easier. I wish I could say that the parents It doesn't. Like it doesn't. Crazy doesn't make an appointment. It just shows up, and it could show up tomorrow morning at 7. It could show up at 8, 9, 10, all day long for a 365 days a year for a new principal or a 20-year principal that's there. But what I would share with them, and this is what I'm coaching them through, is yes, you have to be on campus. Yes, you have to be visible. Yes, you have to be events. But if you have a family or not, you have to be able to step away from your school and trust that the people that you have working under you got it. Like there's a reason you got a dean of students. There's a reason you got a VP. There's a reason you got counselors, an athletic director. You don't have to be everywhere and you don't have to be everything to everyone. And that's the misnomer. Like I don't know where that gets taught in principal school. Like I don't know where you're told you've got to be everyone to everyone. But you think about it, first year principal, second year principal, all of a sudden we're up there 6 days a week. And that's not healthy. So long
Mhm.
story short, getting back to what I would do differently is there are days I would go home as soon as the buses left. I would leave with the buses and I wouldn't feel bad about it because I felt that the badge of honor was having my car be the first in the parking lot and the last one to leave. And that, I mean, I told you off air that tonight before our podcast, I went for a run tonight and I was very proud of my time. I only kept that up for 2.5 miles. Like, but the principalship is run at a sprinter's pace that is a marathon. And that's illogical for a guy like me to try to run an 840 mile, which I was pretty impressed with. I can't do that for 26 miles. I was gassed tonight after 2.5 miles, and I was very proud of that. There are times where you have to sprint, but there are times where you coast, and there's times where you sit out. There's times where you're running that you pull over and sit down or you walk back. But as a principal, we think we have to burn ourselves out to prove to someone. So if you're
Mhm.
out there listening and you're questioning, am I worth it? First of all, you are. You got picked. Somebody saw something in you. Somebody heard something. Somebody believed you. And somebody said, I want you to be the principal. So you have to remember that. But also, you can't live at the school. I retired from the high school that I served, my community. I lived in the community where I served. And you know what? As soon as I left, the school didn't crumble. Kids still showed up this year. Kids still are getting educated. There are teachers there and parents that are happy. And we have to understand that our job, we can't be our job. It can't be wrapped up with who we are. And then the other thing that I would say for teachers, for special education directors, deans of students, if you don't put your mental, your physical, and your mental, physical, and your spiritual health first, you will never be successful in any job that you have. That's not just education or being a principal. That's any job for what you have. If your body is not good, then it's going to shut down and you're not going to be able to work. And a lot of times principals and teachers neglect our own health. I told you that I'm really excited. I worked out a little bit this morning and I spent the end of the day working out at the end of the day. Like I am proud of that, but that gives me the energy to do my job at a high level. After I work out in the morning, I read the Bible. That is important to me. Like I find meaning in my job through scripture that I read in the morning. And I didn't do that till I hit 50 years old. Like it took me 50 years to get to I was an altar boy. I went to church the whole 9 yards, but it took me. So that fills me. And then making sure that I'm okay with my family. Like that, my family always took a back seat to what I did. So
Yeah.
long story short, as I get back to it, if I could do this over again, I would ensure that I didn't live up there 90 hours, not 90, 75 hours a week. I would make sure of that. There are events you have to go to. So don't take this as like, I don't have to go. Like I'm just going to go home and take care of my family. Well, no. You got hired to be a high school principal. There are certain things you have to be at.
Mhm.
Period. You got hired as a high school principal. If your superintendent calls you, you're not going to say, well, it's my time. I don't have to answer. No. We got to understand that. But you don't have to be everywhere. And what I learned was during the basketball game, when you go in and you wave and you say hi to parents and the kids see you, when the ball is tipped, nobody looking for the principal. They're looking at the ball going up. And I could leave at that moment, say that I went there and still be home in time for dinner, a run, seeing my kids do something. But then also realizing that if it's cliche, but if I don't have if my tank isn't full, I can't give to anybody else. And when we
Yeah.
run down, then we're terrible. Everybody knows it. When the principal sneezes, everybody gets the cold. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to be sick all year long. And so I would tell you, if you had this opportunity to do it again for a teacher, and I'd love to hear your take on it as a teacher, as a director, like, is that something that principals and teachers need to hear today? Because it's something that I didn't do well until my last 5 years on the job.
Yeah. I totally agree with you when you talk about I get up at 4:15 every morning. So every morning I go up at 4:15. I'm either running or I'm going to the gym. So I'm running up, miles, or I'm going to the gym, either or. I get back and I read. I make my coffee and I read. So I make my coffee, I read my book, whatever it is, and then it's time to get ready for work. I jump in my car. If I have time, I'll make a little video on my car, whatever is on my mind. Maybe I read something and it was like, I gotta talk about that. This point right here relates to what's happening in school right now. I make a quick little video. I make it a habit to make a video in my car every single day, whether I post it or not. I'm making this video, and then I go to work. I do all I can at work. I give my 100%. 100%. Whatever I could do, whoever I could help. If it's possible, I'm gonna help you. And then when I leave from work, I leave from work. That's it. I leave from work. I come back, and it's like dinner. I'll eat dinner. I'll walk my dog. I'll stretch later on at night. I'll do maybe some ab work or something like that. But I'll take care of my body again. I'll get ready for sleep, and that's what I do. But I have to take care of myself. If I don't take care of myself, and there's been multiple times where I don't take care of myself, where I bring work home and I'm over here stressed out on my computer right here. I neglect all kinds of other things, and I start to get a little bit sick. I
Mhm.
had a one last year was probably one of the worst years of my life when it came to taking care of myself, because I was doing the podcast, I was doing social media, I was the last year was as assistant principal last year was one of the most difficult times for me. I got a stress induced shingles.
Oh,
I got
wow.
stress induced shingles, and it was on the back of my head. It was
Yep.
right here on the back of my head. So I have this giant bump on my head. I go to the doctor. I'm all worried, like, what is that bump? And doctor's like, yeah, you got stress. You got shingles. And what do you do? And I was like, oh, I do this. She's like, yeah, you probably got it because of stress. That's probably what it was. Um, and so there's this thing where you do too much
Yeah.
and you don't take care of your health. You don't take care of your body. And you neglect your family, whatever. My kids are grown. My kids already grown.
That's right.
But for those educators, those assistant principals, deans, counselors that have young families, you have to take care of your health and then take care of your family. I think that's so important. And you have to leave when it's time to leave. Give it your all. Give it your 100%.
Mhm.
Give it, and like you said, there are times when there's science night
Yeah.
or there's math night, or there's a ball game that you have to be at. You're the one that's supposed to be at the ball game, or whatever it is, you're assigned that night to do it. You got to do that, and then but you take care of yourself too, and you don't have to do everything like you were saying. You don't have to be everywhere for everybody all at the same time. That's impossible.
It's
And I think it's possible. I think that sometimes assistant principals, and people in leadership feel like they have to do it all.
Mhm.
And then that's where, one, their health deteriorates, and then two, people don't like that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the team, the teachers, if you have your hand in every single pot, and the person that's supposed to deal with, like, your assistant principal, or your dean is supposed to deal with discipline, but you're always in discipline all the time, overriding him or her, or like the dean is gonna step back and say, well, then you do it. Then if it's you're gonna make the decision, then you do it. Like, if you're the whatever it is, you're the coach, but then your hands always in there with that person, gonna be like, well, go ahead, you do it then,
Mhm.
because it sounds like you want to do it anyway.
Y
So
we hire people for a skill set,
yeah.
and, the silly thing is hire people and get out of the way. It's hire good people and walk alongside them,
Uh-huh.
and mentor them and guide them, but allow them also to take a risk. Like, as we're talking about that, like, one of the things I said to you was, if you came to me and said, "I have an idea. I am excited about this. I wanna own it." Who am I to squash your desire for something? Now, I'm gonna give you some guardrails. Like, here's where at the end of the day, I need you in the city of Los Angeles at 5 o'clock. How you get there, like, that's up to you. But I also tell people, like, John, you're going to own this. If a teacher gets upset, I'm going to steer them to you. If a parent gets upset, I'm going to steer them to you. If a kid gets upset, I'm going to steer them to you. And I'm like, cool, bet. Like, I got that. Like, if you gave me that, like, I'm all in, because I'm going to get excited about this. I'm going to own the project, and I'm going to get you there. So I think that is the important part about, like, sometimes as leaders. And if we allow that, if we step back, we don't burn ourselves out, because if I'm meddling in your business and I'm meddling in this person's business, I'm at work all day long. and I'm not able to focus on what I need to focus on. And so, as a principal, my job is making sure the school is safe, making sure we got an academic vision, and making sure, honestly, parent groups are heard. And I meet with them. I can't tell you that, who should be the third tuba in the band because I don't know, nor do I care. And Amanda Stevenson, I love you dearly if you're listening. I don't know that. But who am I to step in to say, you know what? I hired band director to instill a love of band and have a great band. Who she picks, I have to trust that. I have to
Yeah.
trust that she's making the best decisions. I got to look into trust, but verify is the greatest thing. And so, but I think when leaders allow themselves to step back and say, "You got it. Now, don't let me down. Now, if you let me down, I'm going to meddle in your business because you need to be meddled. Don't let me down." Like that grows our leaders because when I step away, that next person has to be able to step up to be able to take this. And you bring up a good point because, like, when we talk about work life balance, like, I think balance indicates 50-50. Like, if me and you have a balanced checkbook, like, there's no balance in our job. So
Mhm.
you hit it on the head. When you are at work, be all in. Love the hell out of your job. Love
Mhm.
what you're doing. Tell people how excited you are to be there. But like what I got to was I wasn't afraid to when the bus left, I wasn't afraid to wave and go home. Because you
Yeah.
know what? Like you didn't see the hours I put in to get there. You didn't see all the stuff I did. And I didn't need to explain that to you. But I was able to go and do that because I had good people in place that took care of everything that we had. And if they needed me and said, "Hey, come on up here," boom, I'm there. But like you have to be able to do that when you get that. Just like what you said, when you are at home, like my wife and I had this great idea. And if you're looking for something at home, like we bought a Connect 4 game. We don't play much anymore, but we bought a Connect 4 game that we put on the bar of our kitchen. And when we came in, we played a Connect 4 game every time we came in. And I kicked her butt a bunch. And if she's listening to this, she knows that. But that forced us no phones, no TV, no nothing to play a game and to talk. And it
Yeah.
was normally about like how her day was. And
Yeah.
sometimes I could vent with how my day was, but it was
Sometimes.
important to do sometimes. It was important to do that. But I will share one more thing. We do Sunday Fun Day. Like
Yeah.
Sunday Fun Day is our jam. I told you I now live in the city of San Antonio, the heart of downtown. Like we walk everywhere. And on Sundays, we walk, we find a good burger to eat, we find a place to go hang out. And like my wife knows, and I know, don't make any other plans on Sunday because that is our day and that is important for us. And it's no school. I'm not checking emails. I'm not doing any of that kind of work. It is my time to put my hair down a little bit and just be a average guy living in San Antonio, Texas, with a wife that loves him, that wants to be out and having a good time. Maybe live music, maybe a drink, maybe a big walk, maybe a concert, but something in our city. And so when you do that, man, life is just so much better. You can then go to work on Monday when you're refreshed on Sunday. But if I'm worried about work all day Sunday, heck, it just bleeds into it. Like my Monday goes into my next Monday. And
Yep.
pretty soon it's just that cycle. And then you start questioning yourself. What am I doing here? Am I making value? I don't feel good. I'm sick. I got to go to work because if I don't go to work, the school will fall down. And so you've mastered something that I hope the audience hears. When you're home, as best that you can, just disconnect and be home. Like
Mhm.
just watch TV with your wife, watch The Office, find
Yep.
something that they want to watch on Netflix. Like just enjoy it.
One of the
Right?
things I had to do was, I used to have, my email on my phone, my school email on my phone, and then, you get a late email or some email and you're
That's
let's
just
say
now.
you're out and you take a look at it and it's something and you're like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
here," and it would ruin
Yep.
my night. It would
Mhm.
ruin my night, and so I had to make it a point. I learned this a while back. Was like, well, you know what? You can't have your work email on your phone. This was just for me. I couldn't have my work email on my phone because if my work email went off my phone, I just read the heading
Yeah.
from this person. You're like, oh man, I gotta answer. Oh, here we go.
Yep.
Ruin,
Yep.
ruin. So you
And
really
you don't
have to
sleep. Yep.
separate it. You really got to separate it. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, this is work, and I'm gonna give it my 100% here. I'm gonna work my full 8 hours here, and then when it's time to go home, then I'm gonna be present at home because that's important too. And you gotta keep the separation
Yep.
because if you don't, like I think you just said lose your sleep. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna lose sleep. You're gonna lay in your bed, you're gonna lose sleep, and that's probably one of the worst things because the next day is kind of ruined,
Yep.
you
It's
know,
ruined.
is
And not
ruined.
enough caffeine. If you don't get, you mentioned 4:15. I hit the gym at 4:15 or I run at 4:15 just like you. So
Mm,
we're kindred spirits at the same time. If I'm not in bed by 8:30,
mhm,
I'm not good. Like
mhm,
that sleep is so important. And you say, well, where are you going to get the time? You prioritize it. You know what? One of the things I found out was when I was struggling with that, I would go to bed at a decent hour and then doom scroll on TikTok for an hour.
mhm,
And so now when I go to bed, I don't mess with my phone. And
mhm,
you're like, well, good, you shouldn't. Well, I was addicted to it. Like I was
mhm,
addicted to it. But that is one thing that allows me to be able to go to sleep. And so one of the things that you mentioned, and if you're a new teacher or a principal, like it is so important for that. I told people, there's no such thing as really an emergency email. If I need you, I'm going to call or text you. And if I call or text you after hours, I'm only going to do that if there's a real emergency. If
mhm,
not, I will take care of everything as the building principal. And then tomorrow morning at 7:30, when you get in, I will delay delivery and email to hit your inbox at 7:30 to say, John, hey, I got a parent that's really upset. Can we talk about that? It does
mhm.
no good to send that to you at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
You're going to look at it. You're going to be thinking, oh, my God, I got to go to
yeah,
work right now. Let me call the principal. No, like don't do that. There's no such thing as emergency email. If somebody needs you, they will call. If the superintendent calls right now during this call, I would say I need to pause for a minute and take this call because the superintendent would only call if it's an emergency. And
mhm,
teachers out there, I would tell you the same thing. You don't have to look at your email. And I think COVID screwed a lot of this up because I think COVID blurred the lines that we were available anytime for anybody at any point,
that's right.
on demand, on Zoom. We've been give them grace, give them grace, give them grace. And I think we never got out of that to say if a parent wants, like they get. And that's not the case. Like we serve, we love, we give, we give, we give, we give. But when we go home, we got to have something to give to our family. And I'll
Yeah,
share this. This is a terrible story, and I'm embarrassed to admit it. My son, I have 4 girls and 1 boy, 5 children. Seventh grade football, I missed basically his entire year
mm,
because he was at a different middle school than I was.
mm,
Eighth grade, pretty much the same thing because I felt I needed to be at the job. Fast forward to high school, ninth grade year. Well, that was our volleyball night. So I missed some of his stuff because I felt I needed to be a volleyball. It's third year. Fourth year, I'm like, okay, I can't miss my son anymore. He blows his left knee out sophomore year, misses
wow,
his entire sophomore year. Gets better. Okay, 11th grade, we got it. I cannot miss this. He's a junior. Blows it out 3 days into football practice, misses his entire junior year.
wow,
So I get to their senior year. Well, now he's already missed 2 years of high school. He's behind. He gets cut from the basketball team. He plays football, but he's he's a second,
mhm,
third stringer in football. So I will never forgive myself because I put everybody's children first. And my only boy, as Andrew will say, my favorite child, because he's the top ranked child because he is the only boy. So he's my favorite son, which means my 4 girls, I love him equally. He's my favorite child. I say that jokingly. I'll never get that back
yeah,
because I felt others. And John, parents told me, "Hey, go see your son. Why are you here?" Parents knew that. And I still didn't give myself permission to go do it. And I'll never be able to forgive myself for it. So I tell that story to people to say, you know what? You got to be at some games. But you know what? Your son needs you also. Because at the end of the day, when you retire, nobody remembers my car being in the parking lot, but my son remembers that I wasn't at the game. My son
mhm,
remembers this. And so that is so important. My wife remembers the nights that she cooks. Don't tell her to say she doesn't cook a lot, but when she cooks and I'm not able to get home for that, like
yeah,
they remember that the most. And then at the end of the day, the school isn't named for you as a principal. Like the school is named for somebody else. And when you leave, school still stays open. That's
yeah,
humbling to think about.
yeah,
So if they take anything away from our talk tonight, take it from 2 dudes that have done this job for a long time. Take
mhm,
care of yourself. And also, you can't work 24 hours at a school. You
you
just can't.
can't.
You can't do it.
If you're a young principal, you're a young principal and you just stepped into the position and you didn't hire any of your staff. You
Mhm.
didn't hire not one of your staff and you walked into a school where there is a terrible school environment.
Yeah.
How would you turn things around?
Yeah.
What would you do to turn things around in that
Yeah.
situation?
So couple things I would share early on. Clearly articulate your North Star, your goals, your mission, your vision. Clearly articulate that. Not just in August, but repeatedly throughout the year. I'm a big storyteller. So I like to share where I want to go and I share stories and examples of success along the way. I think that's really important. You have to be also visible as the principal. People before paper. So if you need, like, I'm an early riser, like I told you, 4:15, right? I leave at 7 o'clock. I'm at work at my desk an hour before I'm supposed to be. That's the time where I get the most work done and I'm able to work. So when I'm there, if you're an early principal and you've got a culture that's not what you want, or a school that's not what you want, get to work early, do all that paperwork early. When kids and teachers are on campus, you have to be with them. And then you have to be the most visible person on the campus. In college, I read a book called School Management by Wandering Around. And basically, that's ADHD for the principal, honestly speaking.
Mhm,
It is
mhm.
being out there and being visible for what you have. And so when kids are in session, you need to be there. If kids are in the cafeteria, you need to be there. If kids are in classrooms, you need to be there. That gives you an idea and a pulse for your campus. Now, one of the things I would share is I need to let your staff know, hey, listen, I'm just a naturally inquisitive guy. I'm going to be in classrooms and I'm going to engage and I'm going to interact. But when I come in, you don't need to ask me what I'm there for. I'm coming into the classroom to be there to see the kids and see the great things that you're got going. That also gives you an idea of who your rock stars are and who are some of those people that you might need to move on. Because as much as I love educators and as much as I love principals and counselors and you name it, some people don't belong in schools. And that's something that we just have to address. And if
Yeah.
you're not good for kids, why are you there in the first place? Like we already said, the job is difficult enough. And if you don't enjoy being there, why are you there? So if you don't have a good culture, I would say clearly articulate where you want to go, seek buy-in from your teachers. And then I called them hallway conversations. If I walk down the hallway and you're at their door during passing period, I'm going to walk up to you and say, dude, I love them Jordans. Like I'm going to
Yeah.
talk to you about something other than map data, state
Mhm.
accountability, like lesson planning. I'm going to build a relationship with you as a teacher because when I need to have a conversation with you, you're going to not think, hey, this guy doesn't come around except to give me grief. Like
That's
you're
right.
going to say, hey, you know what? This guy's a pretty good guy. And then in my communication that I shared with people, I talked about things like what my family did on the weekend, who my kids are, what's going on, what are you watching on Netflix, what does my fit look like what, give me some feedback on stuff. And slowly I either won you over or you left. Like I was going to wear you down because that's the kind of guy I am. I wanted to know about you. I wanted to know about your children. I wanted to know about your story. I was going to ask if you had a son named John and John played soccer. I was going to ask you how that was going on. And all of that madness and that wandering around built trust on the campus.
Yeah.
And then I just became that guy I was never in my office. I was always in classrooms. And then the uncomfortable part became we started talking about like where do we want to see the campus go? What do we believe our students can do? What should we hold each other accountable to? What are you going to hold me accountable to? And then we came up with this collective belief and then we just lived up to it. Hey John, in August we talked about showing up on time. We talked about giving second chances. We talked about not using sarcasm. Like we agreed to that. Like what happened? Is it just today a bad day or what's going on? And so honestly, if you don't have the culture that you want, you can work on that every single day. It's not easy and there will be lots of resistance. You win over the pockets that you can win over. You never let them see you cry. You never let them see you sweat. You're always positive. You're always optimistic. I had an assistant principal once that would always tell people how hard he was working. Nobody wanted to hear that. No, no, no. I don't want to be an assistant principal.
Nobody
Don't.
cares.
Nobody cares. No, hey, dude, you signed up for this. Like, what are you telling me
Right.
that for? So
That's right.
don't. So every story I told was positive. Like, if you came to me and you wanted to complain about a special education student, I would give you 3 success stories of special education students that I saw because I was in classrooms in your colleague's classroom. And there's a pretty good chance if you told me, hey, Bloomer, this kid Todd, I would tell you a story about how Todd was successful in John's class. And whether you like it or not, I didn't care because at the end of the day, I was taking care of kids, taking care of teachers, and taking care of the community. And this is the flip. When you can rest your head on the pillow at night, knowing you're doing those 3 things, you can sleep well at night. And I'll share this. It is my next TikTok video that I will put out there. In every room you go into, somebody hates you. Like for no reason. Like I'm a really likable guy. People hate me. When I was a principal, people didn't like me. They didn't like the fact I was loud. They didn't like the fact I was visible. They didn't like the fact that the previous principal had a buzz cut. They didn't like the fact that you name it for no reason at all. People will just dislike you. And
Mhm.
that's okay. I don't want to be disliked. We're people. We want people to like us and see us. But at the end of the day, I'm not there to be BFFs with people. I want people to like me. I want to respect people. I want people to feel valued on the campus. And that's what I do. But at the end of the day, you're going to know every decision I made was based on students, staff, and community in multiple different ways. Sometimes it was always teachers, and teachers get upset about that. But sometimes it has to be students first. Sometimes the parent's right. Sometimes if a parent reaches out, I got to listen. They might have
Mhm.
something of value that we can go with. Like those three, that is, John, that is my Bloomer triangle of success. There needs
Mhm.
to be voice in students, parents, and teachers.
Mhm.
Ultimately, I had the final vote, but everybody had a voice. And when you start building structures and systems to solicit voice, to solicit impact, input. If you had been on the campus for 10 years and here's your third principal coming along in 10 years, and I come up to you and I say, John, you know what? I'm struggling with this. Do you have any ideas or suggestions? And you come to me with an idea or suggestion, I'm going to build upon that because I'm going to say, hey, I got a teacher stepping up wanting to help out. And like, what do you need for that? And so soliciting voice, but I think at the end of the day, it's being visible. And then I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, it is championing your teachers, making sure they know that I'm in the classroom. So lastly, I'll share this. Every time I go into a classroom, I leave positive feedback every single time I'm in there, a sticky note or an index card. In my role today, I was on a campus today. I was in 8 classrooms. They don't know me. I left feedback for every single teacher on an index card, thanking them for what they do, highlighting stuff that was really good. Like people want to be appreciated.
That's
People
good.
want to be noticed for that. Think of how many teachers
That's
only
good.
see their principal when it's an observation
Mhm.
and say like, I haven't seen my principal since February. And
Mhm.
it's like May. Like that's on us. Like we don't need that. Like people before paper, get out and wander around, be curious, sit with kids, sit with teachers. And if a teacher gives you an interaction, if I'm telling you, John, as a teacher, you need to build a relationship with students, then I better model that by building a relationship with every teacher, especially the teachers that don't like me. And deep down, man, I'm good with those people. If you
Mhm.
don't like me, I'm going to figure out a way for you to like me. If you don't, if you hate me, I'm going to figure out a way for you, whether it's just out of just sheer, that's my joy today was making you smile. Like that's what I'm going to do because like I
Yeah.
believe everybody that comes to work wants to do a good job. Everybody that's there wants to be a movie made about them. And I'm
Yeah.
going to find that. So if you don't have the culture that you want, start right now. Whenever this podcast drops, you can start tomorrow setting the expectations, setting the tone. And it usually starts with you, principal. It starts with you being out of the office, you being visible, and you being the most positive person. And the person, Jimmy Casas calls it carrying the banner. I say being the biggest cheerleader of your campus. Like if
Yeah.
somebody stops me and says, why should my kids go to this school? I'll talk to you for an hour about why the great teachers, the great kids, the great involvement that we have there, because I believe that. But also I see it every single day and you can't see that from your office.
Mhm.
So I kind of rambled there, but I got passionate and I got fired up about it. But that's the only way you can lead a school. And when you're there, that's the joy you should have. Like if
Yeah.
you don't get 20,000 steps as a principal on your campus, you're doing the job wrong. If your Apple Watch doesn't say, stand up, are you dead? Like, are you alive? Like, something's wrong. Am I right?
That's right. That's right.
Oh,
It's easy to get them 10,000 steps. 20,000 steps is a lot. You have a
20
book.
is a lot. I take that back. That's Friday night football game, walking
That's
up
it.
and down the sidelines with the team.
Yes, you have a book though. You have a
I
book.
do.
Are all these gems in your book?
Absolutely. If this podcast resonated with you, the blueprint, how to survive and thrive as a school administrator, available on Amazon or toddmbloomer.com, is the story of my journey. 7 years to become. Took 7 years to write the book. And it is structures and systems. It is advice. It is really how to avoid the pitfalls and the quicksand that I fell into. And so, like, that is the journey. Now, the great part is I'm about 90% done with the Blueprint 2.0, which will be the companion to the Blueprint, which will be out in June or July of this year, which I'm really excited about. And it doesn't, and I tell people all the time, I'm not judging, I'm speaking from experience. And that's what I'm hoping to share with people. You're doing that with your podcast, with your social media presence. You're giving back. This is my way of giving back to people also. And it's kind of neat. It's therapeutic to share that kind of work with people. So I'd be honored. I'd love to be able to work with principals. I'll share one thing with you. When I retired, I drove Uber and Uber was a fun job to have. And so I am now coaching some principals, and I use the Uber concept to coach these principals. So if you think about Uber, why do you need an Uber? I'm going to go to the airport. I don't want to drive. We're going to go out tonight, have a couple drinks. I don't want to go to the, I don't want to pay $60 to park to see the Lakers play. I'm going to get dropped off. And so I have principals around the country I'm on demand. When they need me, they hit me up. Like Uber, I come to them. I've got some keynote speeches that I've done for different organizations and stuff. I'm excited about. I just landed one in Kansas for this summer, where I'm able to go work with principals and teachers at a college. And so a lot of those things I'd love to be able to share. And the book is a great starting point for some of these. If any of this tonight resonated with you, that'd be a great starting point.
Todd, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Your energy level is impressive.
Thank you.
Your energy level is impressive. And I just really enjoy your stories, your gems that you dropped. And it was just a good conversation. Before you leave,
I enjoyed
is
it.
there one last gem that you might want to leave with our listeners before you head out?
Yeah. One last gem that I would leave with the listeners is this, and this is the honest to goodness truth. When and I hope this is okay. When you turn your life over to the Lord, when you realize that the good Lord is in command and the good Lord is in control, and He will bless or block you with whatever He needs, it gives you an unbelievable peace to be able to do your job at a high level. And without His guidance, without His wisdom, none of us would be here. And you don't have to be, whether it be, a meditation, the Stoics, or something that you buy into or believe. I just have found that when I have turned my life over to God and I said, God, give me the words, put on my heart what I need to say, give me the peace to go about my job. He has done that for me every step of the way. He led me to Houston. He led me to my wife. He gave me a family. He led me to schools. And I have to give thanks to him and realize that he is in charge. And things that I ask and pray for, sometimes I don't get. And that used to make me really mad. He's got a better plan for us. And so as you do your TikTok videos and stuff in the morning, so do I. And a lot of mine that I talk about are faith related, and like things that like I read from the Bible to be able to go and talk about. The greatest leadership book out there, I'd like to say, is the blueprint. It is the Bible. The greatest leadership book out there. The Bible is a true blueprint for how you should carry your life. And honestly, every morning before I read, I say, Dear God, what do I need to get out of this? And something jumps out to me every day that carries me through the day. And honestly, at the end of the day, when I think, how did I get through that? I got through that because of His grace, and He led me through it. There's days He holds my hand. There's days He leads ahead of me. There's days He picks me up and carries me. And once we realize that as a gem to people, once you turn your life over to God, life isn't easy. Life gets better.
Todd, thank you so much for that last gem, and thank you so much for being on the podcast. I greatly appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. God bless you, John. If you're in San Antonio, hit me up. I got a burger for you.